The ballroom shimmered under chandeliers dripping with golden light, a river of glittering gowns and polished shoes moving in orchestrated harmony. Leela's fingers brushed the delicate lace of her dress, a costume she wore as effortlessly as the practiced smile she plastered across her face. She laughed softly, letting her lips curve at the right moment, letting her eyes sparkle just enough to sell the illusion. Yet behind the mask, her chest constricted with a truth no one could see. She loved him, not the human she danced beside, whose hand rested clumsily against hers, but the shadow she had always felt, the invisible presence that belonged to her in ways she could never voice. Every beat of the music made her heart thrum in tandem with the bond that pulsed silently beneath her skin. The Alpha, her Alpha, Leela, you're radiant tonight, her companion murmured, but the words barely reached her ears. She smiled, a ghost of warmth, while her mind drifted to the forest edge beyond the manor grounds, where the air hummed with a scent only she could sense, something ancient, something commanding. A shiver traced her spine. The bond stirred. She had tried to ignore it, tried to bury it beneath years of pretending, but it would not be silenced. The invisible thread tugged at her, fraying the edges of her carefully constructed masquerade. Are you all right? Her companion's voice sliced through her reverie. Leela nodded, but the gesture felt hollow even to her. Every laugh, every toast in the ballroom felt like a mask she had painted over a truth too fierce to contain. Somewhere, in the shadows, the Alpha watched. The awareness was inescapable, a pull that drew her against reason, against safety. A servant passed, carrying a tray of sparkling wine, and she lifted her glass automatically. The clink of crystal echoed through the grand hall, punctuating the momentary chaos in her chest. She wanted to reach for him, to feel his presence, and finally let the bond claim what it had always known was his. But the human clasped her wrist, and she returned the smile he expected, a performance as perfect as it was suffocating. Her gaze drifted to the balcony, moonlight spilling silver across the floor. If she stepped outside, just for a moment, perhaps she could inhale the night air and feel the pull of the Alpha's scent more clearly, the warning, the promise, the claim she could never deny. Her heart ached with the impossible, a silent declaration she could not voice. The music swelled, drawing her into the next waltz, and with every step, the invisible bond tightened, a whispered reminder that pretending had limits. One day, it would demand everything. One day, she would have to choose. And in that choice, the masquerade would fall. The morning sun had barely pierced the veil of mist over the village when Leela found herself the center of whispers once more. Mothers pulled their children closer, vendors exchanged knowing glances, and even the animals seemed to sense the tension radiating from her like static in the air. She forced a smile, the same one she had perfected for balls and gatherings, but today it felt thin, brittle. Her human companion strutted ahead, proudly introducing her to neighbors and acquaintances as if she were a trophy. She's devoted to me, he boasted, unaware of the way her stomach twisted with revulsion. Every word was a knife, a public reminder of the life she pretended to live. Leela, over here, a friend called, eager to draw her into conversation. She complied, laughing lightly, but the words rang hollow. Inside, her thoughts screamed, I am not hers, I belong elsewhere. Then it happened, the laughter started, low, cruel, and growing. A boy she had known as a child tripped into her path, his fall harmless but his words sharp. You really think he wants you? Look at you, pathetic. Others joined, the sound swelling into a chorus of ridicule that made her cheeks burn. Her companion's face twisted, confused and angry, but she ignored him, her heart pounding for reasons he could not begin to understand. Because, as the laughter echoed, a different awareness prickled her senses, a presence at the edge of the crowd, watching, strong, patient, dangerous, the Alpha. Even without seeing him clearly, she could feel his gaze like a weight pressing down, a tether pulling taut. The bond throbbed beneath her skin, warning her, commanding her. He sees you, he knows. The realization should have frightened her. But it didn't. It thrilled her, made her pulse sing. Why do they always treat me like this? She whispered under her breath, voice trembling, though no one else would hear. She clenched her fists, nails biting into her palms, not in anger at the crowd but at herself, for staying silent, for playing the part they demanded. The laughter stopped abruptly as a shadow passed overhead, and for a brief moment the world felt still. Birds scattered, and the village fell into an eerie hush. Her companion stiffened beside her, sensing something he could not comprehend. Then, just as quickly the moment passed, people turned away, muttering, distracted, but Leela's chest still burned from humiliation, her pulse still racing, not from the crowd, but from the invisible presence that refused to release its claim on her. She wanted to run, to flee to the woods where the Alpha waited, yet societal chains bound her still. The day stretched on, each step heavy, each word forced. Every glance toward the edge of the village stirred her awareness anew. He is watching. Waiting, I cannot escape him, and deep down she knew it was only a matter of time before pretending would no longer suffice. The forest was alive with whispers, the wind threading through the trees like secrets passed in hushed tones. Leela's footsteps crunched softly over the fallen leaves, her heart thrumming with a rhythm she could not deny. The village and its humiliations felt a world away, yet the echoes of their laughter still haunted her, a persistent shadow she could not shake. And then he was there. She didn't see him at first, only sensed him, the Alpha. His presence rolled through the woods like a tide, sharp and undeniable, stirring something deep within her that had been dormant for too long. Every nerve, every pulse of blood in her veins, hummed in response. She stopped, inhaling sharply. The scent hit her first, a wild, earthy aroma, tinged with the raw power of dominance and something softer, something achingly familiar. Her knees weakened, and for a moment she considered fleeing. But where could she go that would sever the invisible tether between them? None existed. Leela. His voice rumbled through the clearing, low and magnetic, reverberating through her chest. She turned, and there he stood, half hidden in shadow, eyes gleaming with awareness, intensity, and unspoken demand. Alpha, she whispered, caught between awe and fear. Her fingers twitched, reaching instinctively for the bond she could neither see nor escape. He stepped closer, each movement deliberate, measured, sending ripples of tension across the forest floor. You feel it, don't you? His gaze pierced her, but it was not anger he wore. It was recognition, a pull of something eternal. The bond, it won't let you hide. Leela's breath hitched. She had tried to ignore it for years, tried to pretend her heart was capable of loyalty to another. But the invisible cord binding them pulsed stronger with every heartbeat, every unspoken thought, every stolen glance in the crowd from the day before. I don't understand, she stammered, though she knew the truth in her bones. She had never understood how someone could feel like home without ever touching you. But he was home, and he was danger. He closed the distance until the space between them felt like a furnace, charged with unacknowledged desire. You're mine, he said softly, as if stating a fact beyond debate. Even when you think you belong elsewhere. Her chest tightened. She wanted to argue, to push him away, but the truth pressed against her ribs, relentless. He sees me, he knows, I cannot deny it. A sudden rustle in the trees snapped both of them to alertness. Predators, humans, a rival pack. Instinct took over, muscles coiling like springs, and for a heartbeat, the world shrank to the two of them, bound by something ancient and undeniable. Then the moment broke. The rustle was nothing. Just the wind, the shadows, the forest reclaiming its calm. Yet the bond remained throbbing, a reminder that neither distance nor pretenses could sever what had been written in their souls long before the village ever existed. Leela shivered, not from cold but from awareness. He was real, the bond was real, and soon hiding, or pretending, would no longer be an option. The forest had barely quieted from the Alpha's presence when Leela found herself trembling, not from fear but from revelation. The bond between them pulsed beneath her skin, a living thread that whispered secrets she had tried to bury. Every heartbeat felt heavier, charged with a knowledge she wasn't ready to confront. She had always known she was different. A faint power lingered within her, subtle yet undeniable, a warmth that flickered like a candle against a storm, but no one, No human, no pack member had ever recognized it, until now, until him. The Alpha's eyes, dark and fathomless, scanned her face with an intensity that made her chest tighten. "You've hidden it for so long," he said, voice low, resonating like a drum in the stillness. "But I can see it. I've always seen it, and so have they, those who wish to use it against you." Leela staggered back, startled. "They? Who? What are you talking about?" Her words trembled, betraying the panic she fought to suppress. The villagers, the rival packs, the whispers. All of it had been building, shadows she couldn't yet name. "They know you carry something rare, something dangerous," he said, stepping closer, each footfall deliberate, measured. "A power that could shift the balance, and they will stop at nothing to claim it. But his voice softened, almost breaking. "I will protect you." Her breath caught. Protection, desire, fear, all collided within her chest. She had lived years pretending to love another, hiding her truth beneath layers of compliance and smiles. Yet here was the one being who recognized her fully, and it terrified her. "You see me," she whispered, voice barely audible, but the raw wonder in it was unmistakable. "The real me. I see every part," he said. His hand hovered near hers, a promise unspoken but undeniable. "And I won't let anyone take what's ours. You belong with me, whether you understand it yet or not." Leela wanted to pull back, to deny the rush of heat pooling through her veins, but the bond was relentless, winding tighter with every breath, every thought they shared in silence. Her hidden power, her fear, her longing, they all resonated with his presence, each beat amplifying the truth she had tried to ignore. Suddenly, a snap of a branch echoed nearby, sharp and threatening. Leela spun, eyes wide, heart hammering, not from the noise, but from the realization that their vulnerability was mutual. Whoever lurked in the shadows could sense it too. Her power made her a target, and now she had no choice but to confront it with him at her side, or risk losing everything. The wind carried whispers of danger, of secrets yet unveiled, and Leela's mind swirled with questions she didn't yet have the courage to voice. But deep down, a spark of clarity ignited, hiding, pretending, running. It was no longer an option. The Alpha's gaze met hers, unwavering, resolute, and in that moment she understood. Some truths could not be denied, and some bonds could never be broken. Moonlight spilled across the forest floor like silver fire, casting long shadows that danced between the trees. Leela's breath came in shallow bursts, each inhale tinged with anticipation and fear. The Alpha stood nearby, silent, yet his presence wrapped around her like a living force she could neither resist nor fully comprehend. Every step she took seemed to echo in tandem with the bond that pulsed between them, an invisible thread tightening with each heartbeat. She had spent years pretending, burying desire beneath the weight of expectations and fear, yet now, under the watchful gaze of the Alpha, the truth clawed its way to the surface. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered, trying to mask the tremor in her voice. But the words rang hollow. She knew she was lying, to him, to herself, and yet, "Here you are," he said softly, each word deliberate, each syllable a caress against her senses. His eyes glimmered in the moonlight, dark with unspoken intent, yet tempered by a tenderness that made her chest ache. "Drawn by the bond you try to deny." Leela swallowed, forcing herself to meet his gaze. Every fiber of her being urged her to flee, to hide behind the pretense she had perfected, yet the Alpha's presence made it impossible. The connection was a wildfire, licking at the edges of her restraint, igniting a longing she had never allowed herself to feel. "You don't understand," she murmured. "If anyone knew, if they saw, everything would fall apart." His hand hovered near hers, the space between them charged, vibrating with the weight of unspoken promises. "I understand more than you realize," he said, "and I don't care who sees. What matters is that you feel it too, the pull, the bond. You cannot deny it, Leela." Her chest tightened as their fingers brushed accidentally, sparks flaring at the touch. A shiver ran down her spine, and she wanted to pull away, but the bond wouldn't let her. It twisted, insistent, compelling, demanding acknowledgement of what had always been there, hidden beneath layers of fear and pretension. I can't, she whispered, voice trembling. I'm supposed to. Her words faltered. Supposed to love another. Supposed to hide. The pretense that had ruled her life felt laughably fragile against the truth radiating from him. He stepped closer, closing the distance until the heat of his body brushed against hers. Then stop pretending, he said, low and intimate, his breath brushing her ear. Stop hiding, feel it, accept it, and let it guide you. Her heart pounded so violently she thought it might betray her. She wanted to resist, wanted to cling to the mask she had worn for so long, but the bond, fierce and undeniable, refused to be ignored. Every pulse, every thrum of energy between them, screamed a truth she could no longer deny. She belonged to him, and he to her. For the first time, Leela allowed herself to lean into the forbidden fire, to feel desire without shame. The forest held its breath with them, shadows wrapping around their shared heat, every sound, the rustle of leaves, the whisper of wind, amplifying the connection. Somewhere, deep in the woods, a distant howl echoed, sharp and raw, a reminder that the world beyond their bond was still dangerous. But for this moment, the bond was all that mattered. It was intoxicating, relentless, and completely theirs, impossible to ignore, impossible to deny. And with every heartbeat, every fleeting brush of skin against skin, Leela knew, pretending had ended. The forbidden bond had claimed her. The village never truly slept. Even under the cloak of night, the streets whispered secrets, rumors carried on the wind like poisoned petals. Leela moved carefully, shadows stretching long across her path, each footstep cautious yet deliberate. The warmth of the Alpha's presence from the forest still lingered in her veins, a lingering pulse that both comforted and warned her. She hadn't been alone for long before subtle signs appeared. Cryptic messages slipped beneath her door, strange symbols carved into the bark of trees near the edge of the woods. Someone was watching, someone knew. You shouldn't be wandering so freely. A voice hissed from the darkness. Startled, Leela spun, but no one was there. Just the whisper of leaves and the faintest trace of a scent she didn't recognize. Predatory. Calculated, dangerous, her pulse quickened. She knew the risks now. Her hidden power had drawn attention that would not be friendly. The Alpha had warned her, yes, but the reality of it was sharper, colder than she'd imagined. Enemies lurked, and the forest that had once been her refuge now seemed like a stage for unseen threats. Her hands clenched at her sides as footsteps echoed behind her. "Show yourself," she demanded, though her voice lacked conviction. The shadows answered with silence. Only the wind carried the taunt. "We know what you are. We know what she is." Leela froze, heart hammering. The words weren't spoken aloud, yet they struck deeper than any blade. She knew, even without seeing the source, that these were no ordinary villagers or mischief makers. These were rivals, shifters who hungered for power, who would exploit her strength and the bond she shared with the Alpha. Her thoughts raced, and she felt the invisible tether pulse urgently. He was near, the Alpha, always near when danger lurked, his presence a quiet roar beneath her skin, and yet he hadn't arrived. "Not yet, you're not alone," she whispered into the night, almost hoping the shadows themselves could hear. Her bond thrummed, a reminder that the Alpha would come for her, that they were connected beyond distance, beyond fear. And still, a shiver ran down her spine at the thought of what might happen before he could reach her. A rustle in the underbrush made her pivot sharply. Eyes, faintly glinting, watched her from the darkness. A warning, a threat. She didn't need more than that to know the stakes. Her hidden power, the secret she'd guarded for so long, could be the key to someone else's gain, or destruction. The night pressed close, oppressive, and electric. She took a deep breath, forcing calm she did not feel. Every instinct screamed to flee, but she couldn't, not yet. The bond tugged at her, urging her forward, guiding her toward the inevitable confrontation, toward the Alpha who could protect her, and who would claim her body and soul when the time came. And in that cold, tense forest air, Leela realized the truth she could no longer ignore. Danger wasn't coming. It was already here. The night had grown colder, the forest dense with mist that clung to Leela's skin like a warning. She had thought the whispered threats were the worst of it, an external danger to be faced with the Alpha at her side, but betrayal has a sharper edge, and she was about to feel its sting firsthand. Her steps were careful, deliberate, as she approached the clearing where she had agreed to meet a trusted friend, a confidant she had relied on for years, someone who had promised loyalty. Yet as she emerged into the moonlit space, the hair on her arms rose in warning. The familiar presence was there, but not alone. Shadows moved behind him, figures she recognized from rival packs, their eyes gleaming with calculated malice. What is this? Leela demanded, her voice trembling, a mix of fear and disbelief. Her friend's gaze flickered, guilt and fear warring within him, but the mask of compliance hardened quickly. I had no choice. He whispered. They threatened. They said if I didn't, you betrayed me. She interrupted, voice rising. Her chest ached, betrayal slicing sharper than any blade. Everything I trusted. You threw it away. One of the rivals stepped forward, a smirk playing at the corner of his mouth. She's stronger than we expected, he said, voice dripping with venom. And now she'll either serve us, or she'll be destroyed. The bond in Leela's chest flared suddenly, powerful and unyielding. Her senses sharpened, adrenaline rushing, but so did the ache of heartbreak. The one she had trusted most was the one who had handed her vulnerability to enemies, and yet, through the panic and hurt, a deeper, fiercer pulse surged, the Alpha. The invisible tether throbbed, a lifeline, a command, a promise. He would come, he always came. Her hidden power reacted, flaring slightly, a spark she had never allowed herself to display in public. The air thickened with the scent of danger, her strength a magnet for both betrayal and salvation. Leave her alone. A voice thundered through the clearing, low and commanding, yet brimming with an authority that made the treacherous figures hesitate. The Alpha emerged, massive, imposing, the ground seeming to shift beneath him. His eyes burned into hers, reassurance and demand combined. I am here. I claim her. Her heart twisted with relief and lingering anger. She had been betrayed, yes, but he was here always. She didn't need to speak. The bond pulsed against hers, a tangible reminder of the connection no one could sever. The rival pack members hesitated, glancing at one another, then back at him. One wrong move, one misstep, and the Alpha's wrath would consume them. Her friend cowered, guilt etched into every line of his face. Leela's gaze met his for a moment, anger, hurt, and pity colliding, and she knew she had to make a choice, trust him again, or let the bond with the Alpha carry her through what came next. The tension crackled like lightning in the clearing. Leela's pulse raced, not just from danger, but from the undeniable truth coursing through her. The bond with the Alpha was stronger than any betrayal, fiercer than any fear, unbreakable. And in that charged silence, she realized her fight was only just beginning. The forest was thick with tension, every shadow a potential threat, every rustle of leaves a warning. Leela's chest ached, not from exertion, but from the weight of fear, betrayal, and desire that had built relentlessly over the past days. Her hands shook, not with weakness, but with the awareness that she could no longer run from what she truly was, and who she belonged to. The Alpha stood before her, immense and commanding, his presence pressing against her like a tide she could not resist. His eyes were dark, filled with frustration, longing, and a fierce demand for honesty. You've been hiding from me, he said, voice low, rumbling through the forest like thunder. Every moment you pretend, it hurts me. Leela looked away, guilt twisting in her stomach. She began, but the words faltered. How could she explain years of pretense, of fear, of trying to survive a world that would never understand her power? You can't run from this. He interrupted, stepping closer, his heat washing over her. You can try, but the bond, it always brings you back. His hand lifted, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face, the touch intimate, demanding, and terrifying all at once. Her heart hammered, every nerve alive with the pull of the bond. I'm scared, she admitted, voice barely audible, trembling with vulnerability. What if I fail? What if they take everything from us? He cupped her face, thumb brushing along her jaw with a gentleness that belied his power. You will not fail, he said, low and certain. Not while I stand beside you, not while this bond exists. You are stronger than you know, and I am yours. Do you understand?" Her breath caught. She wanted to deny him, to cling to the remnants of her pretenses, but the bond flared, insistent, relentless. Every pulse of energy between them was a plea, a declaration, a promise. "We are bound. You cannot resist." I feel it," she whispered, tears pricking her eyes. "I feel everything. You the bond, but I'm terrified. And that is why we face it together," he said, voice fierce yet tender. "No more hiding, no more pretending. The world will try to tear you down, betray you, use you. But I will not let it, you and I. We are stronger than anything they throw at us." Leela's knees threatened to buckle, the emotions crashing over her in waves of fear, longing, and relief. The Alpha's presence grounded her, yet also ignited something wild within, a desire she could no longer suppress, a need to surrender to the bond fully. A sudden rustle in the distance snapped both of them to alertness. Danger lingered, but for the first time, she didn't feel alone. She felt connected, anchored by something fierce, undeniable, eternal. The forest seemed to exhale around them, tension mingling with moonlight, and Leela realized the truth she had been avoiding. The breaking point had arrived, and with it a choice: pretend no longer, hide no more. Embrace the bond, or risk losing everything. Her hand trembled as she reached for him. Then, "I trust you," she said, letting the words carry the weight of years of fear and longing. He smiled, a rare, tender curve of lips that promised protection, passion, and claim. "Good, because we have a war to face. And I claim you, Leela, completely." The Alpha's presence pressed closer, their bond thrumming like wildfire, and in that moment Leela understood. Nothing would ever be the same. Not for them, not for anyone. The pack grounds were in chaos. Flames licked the edges of the clearing where rival shifters had dared to challenge them, their snarls and shouts piercing the night air. The Alpha moved like a force of nature, his presence commanding the pack, his eyes never leaving Leela for a single moment. Leela's pulse raced as she clung to the edge of the forest, watching him. He was terrifying. Magnificent and completely hers. Every muscle in his body radiated power, the raw energy of dominance and authority that marked him as Alpha, as protector, as the only one capable of keeping her safe. "You will not touch her," he roared, voice booming across the chaos. His words were a whip crack in the night, silencing a momentary attack from a rival. "She is mine," the challengers faltered, glancing at each other nervously. Some stepped back, intimidated by the sheer force of his presence. Others snarled, unwilling to yield, but the Alpha's power was absolute. His pack moved as one, surrounding him, a tide of loyalty and raw strength that left the enemies with nowhere to hide. Leela's breath caught as he turned toward her, his eyes sweeping over her face, filled with fire and possessive demand. "You have nothing to fear," he said softly, though the words carried weight like iron. "I am here, I claim you, and anyone who dares stand in our way will regret it." Her hands trembled at the intensity of his gaze. She felt the bond flare between them, a living thing that pulsed with every heartbeat, every surge of energy around them. She had feared so many things: humiliation, betrayal, loss, but nothing compared to the thrill and terror of standing at the center of his power, recognized fully, claimed utterly. The battle was swift but brutal. Rivals lunged, teeth bared, claws flashing, but the Alpha and his pack moved like shadows of vengeance. Leela felt a surge of fear, yes, but also exhilaration. The energy of the fight, the stakes, the undeniable proof of his dominance. It was intoxicating. A rival managed to slip past the outer circle, aiming for her, and she froze for the briefest heartbeat. Then the Alpha was there. Faster than thought, stronger than fear, his presence enveloped her, a shield against harm. "Not today," he growled, fangs flashing as he sent the intruder sprawling into the dirt. Silence fell after the clash, broken only by the heavy breathing of combatants and the distant echoes of retreating rivals. The pack had survived. He had survived, and he had claimed her in the way only the Alpha could, with fire, power, and unyielding dominance. Leela stepped toward him, drawn not by gratitude alone, but by something deeper: connection, desire, trust, forged in the heat of chaos. He reached for her, and the moment their hands met, the bond surged, a wildfire consuming the last threads of pretense she had clung to for so long. "You see now," he murmured, voice softer yet still commanding. "I will fight, protect, and claim what is mine. Always, do you understand?" Her lips parted, eyes shimmering with tears and awe. I understand," she whispered completely. And under the silver glow of the moon, amidst the quiet of a pack victorious yet wary, Leela felt the final truth settle deep in her bones. The Alpha's claim was absolute, and her place, his place, was forever beside him. The clearing was eerily quiet after the chaos, yet the tension that lingered was thicker than any shadow. Leela's chest ached, not from fear of battle, but from the knowledge that her secret could no longer remain hidden. The power she had kept buried, the bond with the Alpha, and the truth about who she truly was, all of it teetered on the edge of exposure. "You need to tell them," the Alpha murmured, voice low and urgent, as they stepped toward the pack circle. His hand brushed hers, grounding her, steadying her against the storm of nerves raging inside. "Before someone else does." Her breath hitched. Every instinct screamed to hide, to pretend once more, to vanish into the folds of anonymity she had relied on for so long. But the world had changed, danger had escalated, bonds had been forged, and the Alpha's unwavering claim reminded her that hiding was no longer an option. Reluctantly, she drew in a shaky breath and stepped forward. The pack's eyes turned to her, some curious, some wary, all waiting for the revelation that would redefine everything. The human world, the village whispers, the rival shifters, they had all underestimated her. I'm not who you think I am," she began, voice trembling but gaining strength as the Alpha's presence bolstered her courage. "There is power inside me, one that I've hidden to survive, to protect myself, and to protect those I care about." A low murmur ran through the pack. Eyes widened, some faces filled with awe, others with disbelief. Whispers spread like wildfire, carrying both fear and fascination. The Alpha stepped forward, placing a protective hand on her shoulder. "She is not just our mate," he said, voice carrying across the clearing. "She is extraordinary, and anyone who doubts her will learn to respect her or regret it." Leela felt the bond flare, tangible and undeniable, as if the forest itself was echoing the truth. She could feel the pack shifting, their awareness of her abilities and her connection to the Alpha deepening with each heartbeat. A rival pack's envoy, lurking at the edge of the clearing, faltered at the sight, realizing the depth of her hidden strength and the Alpha's claim. The balance of power had changed in an instant, and the whispers of fear and respect mingled like wind through the trees. Leela's heart thudded as she looked at the Alpha, gratitude and love mingling with lingering fear. I didn't want this," she admitted softly, "but I see now that hiding only made me weaker. With you, I feel stronger." He smiled, dark and possessive, yet tender. "You've always been strong," he said. "And now, everyone will know it. Together, nothing can break what we share." For the first time in years, Leela allowed herself to exhale fully. Secrets had been revealed, fear had been confronted. The bond with the Alpha burned brighter, untouchable, unstoppable. The world could see them, not as prey and predator, not as hidden and fearful, but as mates, as partners, as unstoppable forces bound by destiny. And with that revelation, a sense of calm settled over her. The storm of lies, fear, and pretense had passed. Only the bond remained, fierce, undeniable, eternal. The dawn broke over the pack grounds in hues of gold and rose, spilling light across the forest clearing where Leela and the Alpha stood at the center. The air was thick with anticipation. The pack gathered around them in reverent silence. Today would not be ordinary. It would be a declaration, a claim, a cementing of destiny that no one could deny. Leela's hands trembled slightly, not from fear but from the weight of the moment. Years of hiding, pretending, and longing had led to this. She had faced humiliation, betrayal, danger, and her own doubts. And through it all, the bond with the Alpha had endured, unbroken, unwavering. He stepped forward, every movement radiating power and authority, the Alpha in every fiber of his being. His eyes found hers, dark, commanding, and yet filled with a tenderness that made her heart ache. "Do you accept this bond?" he asked, voice echoing across the clearing, not as a pretense, not as a choice, but as destiny. Leela inhaled, feeling the pull of the bond stronger than ever, a living force that wrapped around her, claiming her completely. "I do," she whispered, voice steady despite the flutter in her chest. "I accept you completely." The Alpha smiled, dark and victorious, and took her hands in his. The bond between them surged, visible now to anyone attuned, a wave of energy that radiated their connection, fierce and undeniable. Even the skeptics in the pack felt it, a quiet awe settling over the gathering. A ripple of wind stirred, carrying the sense of forest and life, and with it, a sense of absolution. Chains, both social and magical, that had bound Leela to fear and pretense shattered invisibly. She was no longer the girl who hid in shadows. She was claimed, known, powerful, and loved. The Alpha drew her close, forehead resting against hers. "You are mine," he murmured, possessive and tender all at once, "and I am yours, forever." Her chest tightened with emotion. The journey had been perilous, the path fraught with danger and heartbreak, but every step had led here. To this moment, to the declaration that nothing, neither pack politics, rival shifters, nor fear could sever. Around them, the pack responded in unison, a chorus of growls, cheers, and acknowledgments, affirming their acceptance, their awe, and their respect. Allies and former enemies alike recognized the bond, the power, the claim. Leela felt a surge of strength as the pack acknowledged her, not as a secret or a pawn, but as a force in her own right. The Alpha's hands lingered on her face, tracing the curve of her jaw, tilting her head so their eyes locked. "We have fought, we have hidden, we have survived," he said, voice low, intimate, "but this is ours. No one can take it from us. Do you feel it?" "Yes." Leela breathed, letting the words carry the weight of every fear faced, every desire denied, every bond proven. "I feel it, all of it, and I never want to let go." The Alpha's lips brushed hers, gentle at first, then firmer as the bond flared between them. Sparks of energy, love, and power ignited, and Leela surrendered fully, letting the fire of desire, connection, and destiny wash over her. Every whispered threat, every betrayal, every humiliation faded, leaving only the Alpha and her, entwined, unbreakable. They pulled back slightly, foreheads resting together, breathing shared, hearts aligned. "Bonded forever," he murmured, the promise absolute. "Yes," she replied, voice full of conviction and joy. "Forever." The forest seemed to exhale with them, leaves rustling in celebration, light dancing across their skin. The pack standing witness to a union that had been written long before either of them had known it. The bond was complete, the destiny fulfilled, and the world could no longer question the truth. They were mates, bonded by fate, love, and fire, unbreakable, unstoppable, and forever. And in that moment, Leela finally allowed herself to believe. The masquerade was over, the secrets were gone, and her heart belonged entirely to the Alpha who had always been hers.